We have covered the work of Joseph Shield Nicholson in episode 197. Today we will review his 1889 A Dreamer of Dreams. We see Henry Newman of Cambridge ride his boat for the nearby fens. But then, just as a young girl captivates him with her singing, his boat strikes a chain hung in the water and he is dunked in the river. Fully drenched, we find it is the fault of the singer, a girl of 14 summers named Una, the sister of his friend Armitage. As the Armitage house is where he was headed anyway, no great harm is done, and Newman is also met by his other friend, the scientist Charles Ray. Some time later, while out boating, Una manages to get nearly drowned, but for Newman's supreme effort to save her life. Time passes, but Henry Newman in Part 2 seems a totally different character from Henry Newman in Part 1. He is suddenly miserly and wishes to make as much money as possible to then enjoy life to the fullest, and will complain of his poverty to anyone who will listen. He had lost his allowance thanks in part to his cousin Stephen. His uncle, the financier John Newman, was always embarrassed by his son, who the book calls weakly and inferior every chance it gets. More so as Henry is the son of a woman who chose poverty in Henry's father rather than his rich brother. So Henry's uncle resents him and regrets that he, so perfect in mind and limb, should have been his own son instead. Well, one day John Newman arranges a marriage for his son Stephen to get him out of the way into the country, but Stephen bungles it and she coldly rejects him and calls him the laughing stock of the county, and immediately regrets it when she sees what she has done to the poor lad. Cursed and abused even more than usual, Stephen is disinherited and sent away to Cape Town to handle himself however he should wish. In the meantime, Newman is visited at Cambridge by Armitage and Ray, who recount their recent journey to South Africa and their meeting a man there on whose weakness they like to go off on, before mentioning how the man was imprisoned for trying to rob them and then hurting their servant in the process and then refusing to confess. And Newman knows who this is but doesn't say anything. Then Newman hears that his uncle died without a will, and that Stephen was found to have died in a South African prison. He now inherited £2 million sterling, which seems a lot already. Before I tell you that today, that would be some £210 million. Then 2 days later, Stephen shows up legally dead but not. This throws a wrench into Henry's plans. In the meantime, Henry had developed an ability to use opiates to control his dreams and have complete mastery over them. He has a strong wine prepared mixed with his favourite opiate solution, and while wandering outside cursing Stephen's untimely resurrection, he remembers the wine is in the cabinet, of which he gave Stephen full use, and he hesitates, thinking to let him poison himself and keep the money. When he gets there, he finds Stephen dead, and wishes to kill himself with his hallucinogenic wine, but is unable to drink deeply enough and then sleeps. He dreams a man named Mr. Smith comes to help him mask the crime and reveals he is in fact the devil. He sends Newman away to enjoy his fortune, but no matter where he goes, he is taunted by the spectre of the dead man. He returns a wreck, and the devil offers to let him try to force his fortune onto his friends. And he does, but Mr. Smith's intentionally bad counsel ruins their lives and schemes. Then the money is returned and the dead man comes back with it. And the only chance Newman is given by Smith is to go find a pure woman who loved him before he got the money. So he goes to Una, but just as he is about to confess, the dead man grins over her shoulder and he's driven off. He even tries to get himself hanged for murder, but though everyone in the jury believes Smith is the devil, that is why they reject his testimony of Newman's guilt. In the end, it is a dream and punishment for his hubris, as Stephen awaits him upon waking alive and well except for a headache. The book does take a bit too long for Smith to show up, but he does save a story that was a bit lame and rudderless before.